Greetings and welcome to the 61st episode of Morrowind Modding Showcases, and as always I'm your host Rock Elf Guy, and today we have another 13 mods to your viewing pleasure, this time around with a, fairly random theme, but nonetheless there's some really cool mods here for you to check out. And as always you'll find download links for all the mods shown, as well as conflict information and mod cleaning warnings and tutorials and all that stuff down in the video description below. So let's go ahead and get things sorted with our popular mod of the week, which this time around is Illuminated Palace of Vivec by Vojteek, and I do apologise, I probably mispronounced that name, and anyway, this is a fairly small, simple and straightforward cosmetic addition to the Palace in Vivec, adding hundreds of these candles to the steps leading up to Vivec's palace, as well as a ton of flowers around the shrines here, and even a couple of red and blue lanterns to add a bit of variety to the lighting. And all this makes very much more atmospheric and beautiful setting for when you first approach Vivec's palace, particularly during the evening hours, which is of course what you'll see here. And while this is a very simple mod, it does a lot to, add to that magical nature of Vivec. Though having said that, this is also a massive framerate hog, and this mod will cause a ton of lag issues on lower end computers, so just keep that in mind before installing it. And anyway, real quick, we're going to go around the palace a bit more to show off the illuminated effects of the candles here from a few, different angles, and with some pretty good distant land and lighting settings, you can see the effects of the palace lit up at night from a pretty good distance away, and it really is just a very cool looking mod, and helps to make what should be one of the more unique locations in the game feel all that more, special, especially that first time that you visit it. For our house mod of the week this week, we have Blackwell Farm by Deor. Now, this is a really nice looking custom-made farm along the road going outside of Saran in the Ascadian Isles, and you can tell right away it has a pretty unique exterior, with a more sort of imperial or Nordic style of design, instead of a more native Dunmer design, and it's also nicely detailed with a stables area for a horse or pack war, a cluttered porch, and what looks like a sort of storage shack along the side of the house here. There's also a fair bit of detailing along the sides and back of the house as well. And it kind of reminds me a lot of the sort of custom-made homes you see a lot in Oblivion and Skyrim more so than Morrowind. But personally, just from the exterior here, I really like the look and design of this home. It looks fairly cozy to me. And going inside, this house maintains its sort of unique style and design, with a home that doubles as a stables. There's even a guan here, which leads me to believe that this is a repurposed barn of some kind. And anyway, the house includes a small lounge with a fireplace, a study area with a desk, a fair bit of storage with several chests for your use, a bed of course, and a dining area, and you also notice a number of unique decorations in here, with paintings on the walls and the like. This is certainly a fairly different type of house mod than those we usually showcase on this channel, and I love the amount of detail and clutter in here, though obviously that's not going to be for everyone, but again, I find it quite cozy myself. There's also a teleport stone that comes with the house, that allows you to teleport back home at any time, which is certainly a nice convenience feature to have. This week's gameplay mod of the week is Skill-Based Magicka bonus by Helswake, and this is a very simple mod that basically changes, or rather tweaks, one of the aspects of Magicka in the game, essentially adding a new system to fortify your Magicka, which can be especially handy for mages just starting out. Now, to get down to the nitty-gritty of what this mod does, it basically allows you to gradually increase your permanent fortified Magicka bonus over time, as you improve your skills in destruction, restoration, mysticism, alteration, illusion, and conjuration. This Magicka bonus is based on the total sum of all 6 schools of magic combined, so even if one of those schools of magic is a minor or miscellaneous skill for you, you can still level it up to improve your fortified Magicka multiplier. And this means that certain magic-heavy classes can actually, start the game with a 1.5 Magicka multiplier right off the bat. That's assuming, of course, that you choose the right race and class as soon as you start. And in total, there's 8 levels of fortified Magicka multipliers that you can achieve, going up by a 0.5 multiplier after you hit certain benchmarks. Now, for the purpose of showing this off in our showcase here, I'm going to, cheat a bit and use trainers to quickly level up my skills so you can see some of the higher multipliers. But again, these benchmarks are based on your sum total of the 6 schools of magic, so if you're a battle mage specializing in destruction, it's still worth your time to level up illusion and restoration as well, since the more skill points you have, the better your Magicka multiplier is going to be, and the more magic you'll have to cast in your next battle. And here you can see I've achieved the 5th level Magicka multiplier on my character here, and this one triggers when you have a total sum of magic skills at about 300, and obviously I've cheated a bit to give myself a 100 in destruction, conjuration, and mysticism, so you could see this quicker. And this is an extremely handy mod to have installed for mages, because while Morrowind's magic system is arguably the best in the Elder Scrolls series, let's face it, you're basically mincemeat playing a mage like a heavy character at the start of the game. Now with this mod installed, you'll stand more of a chance earlier on and be able to increase your pool of Magicka over time, so you'll be able to, last longer in a fight. And this is definitely a great mod to look at for those of you looking for a few improvements from mages specifically. And next up we have our town of the week, and this week we have Docks of Saran by Valley Lily. And this is a pretty big overhaul and expansion of not just the Docks of Saran here, but also the lower quarter of the city, adding a lot of clutter, cranes, crates, barrels, ships, and of course docks to the town's waterfront. There's been a lot of mods that have, done something similar to this over the years, partly because it's a pretty obvious gap on Bethesda's part. Saran is clearly a waterfront city, but had no docks or ships for transportation, and this is just the latest overhaul for the docks area of Saran, but it's certainly a very cool looking one, and quite beautiful as well. We're recording this during the evening hours, so you'll notice the added lighting effects to the docks here. In addition to the copious amounts of clutter added everywhere that makes this feel like a real harbour town, this one also adds in a lot more streetlights to the waterfront and the lower quarter, which really helps to add to the atmosphere during these evening and nighttime hours especially. Now the waterfront is where most of the changes here take place, but there's also a few vendor stalls and the like that have been added to the lower quarter of the city here, as well as again some more clutter with lots of detritus along the side of the road here, some of which might have been left by drunken patrons to the nearby House of Earthly Delights. Though by far the most recognisable feature of this mod is unquestionably the numerous shipping cranes that now share the city's skyline with the Halalu Guard Towers. You can tell that Saran is more than just a tourist city now, it's also a city of industry, with shipments coming from all over the Ascadian Isles to be sold in Saran's numerous shops and taverns. The wheels of trade never stop, and now there's abundant evidence of this harbour town's bustling activity. And you'll also find some new services here, with transportation to a number of other cities and towns available from the Saran waterfront. And overall, this is just a really beautiful and amazing looking mod. Probably one of my personal favourites for Saran so far, but keep in mind that it will conflict with a lot of other mods out there, including Morrowind Rebirth and Thonder's Saran waterfront mod, so that's just, something to keep in mind. For our items of the week this week, we have Terralic Hafted Blades version 2 by Terralic. And this is a revision of one of Terralic's earlier mods, which adds a number of these sort of, spear-like hafted blades to the game world of Morrowind, added to the leveled lists, shops, and elsewhere in the world. And for the most part, these hafted blades are, based on existing weapon sets. So you'll find hafted blades made out of iron, steel, silver, and, so on and so forth. And each with a bit of a unique look to them. Now, because the mod adds items to the leveled list, you'll, typically find them in places like smugglers' caves and crates or barrels, or, otherwise in shop vendors' inventories, so you'll never know where you might come across one. And anyway, we're going to take a look at just a few different blades here, starting with the Nordic one, and you can tell this uses a modified blade from a Nordic broadsword. A lot of these weapons all share the same textures as their vanilla counterparts, so they blend in pretty well with the rest of the game. And you can also see a Daedric Hafted blade here, which looks a bit different from the others. It has a bit of a, curve to the blade at the top, giving it a unique look, and otherwise it fits right in with the rest of the Daedric weapons that you'll find in Morrowind. And here's another rather interesting looking one. This is the Duma Hafted blade, and in total there's about 9 new Hafted blades added to the leveled list of Morrowind, adding a variety of new spear-like weapons for you to find. And if you're into that sort of thing, you should definitely, consider giving this mod a try. And given that it blends in pretty seamlessly with vanilla Morrowind, this should also appeal to purists who want to keep the game feeling as vanilla as possible. This week's quest mod of the week is The Fires of Orc by Gavrilla93. And now with this mod, after you join the Imperial Legion, you'll be able to go on a secondary quest for the second-in-command, an orc that wants to set up a new fort by integrating the Dunmer Fortress of Alanvarian as an official outpost of the Empire. The stronghold is currently occupied by a group of orcs, and because the orcs are, generally pro-Empire, he believes they should be easy enough to convince to officially sign up with the Legion. And of course, nothing is ever as simple as that, and while the leader of the orcs is more than interested in the offer, you'll have to prove yourself to them by going to a nearby vanilla Daedric shrine and killing all the cultists that you find there. And it should be noted that this mod is trying to be as vanilla-friendly as possible, merely adding new quests and dialogue to existing NPCs, and not really adding a ton of new locations. The goal here is to blend in as much as possible with the vanilla game content, so you'll get a few quests like this that send you to vanilla game dungeons to kill something, or retrieve something, rather than going to new dungeons or anything like that. And once you convince the orcs to join the Empire and turn their encampment into a, fort of sorts, though you won't see a whole lot of the Legion banners waving around everywhere, Many of the orcs that you'll find wandering around Valenvarian will now offer quests, and in total there's about 9 new quests for you to go on that range from getting supplies, clearing out egg mines, helping out with problems around camp, and so on and so forth. A lot of the orcs also have a bit of new dialogue, sometimes giving advice, other times offering a quest, and yet other times challenging you to a fight, because at the end of the day, they are still orcs and they like to smash things. It's the orcish way, There's a fair amount of content here, about enough to occupy you for a couple of hours, assuming of course you haven't already cleared all the vanilla game dungeons in the area, and also assuming that you don't do all the quests all at once, and instead, spread them out a bit. But anyway, this is certainly a cool mod to check out, with a fair bit to do, and it was actually ranked in the top 6 mods from the Morrowind May Marathon competition by our judges, so if you like vanilla style quest content, you should definitely consider giving this mod a try. And next up we have our Landmass Mod of the Week, which this week is the Adronicon by GBT3E. And now this is a bit of an odd mod, I suppose. It isn't strictly speaking just a Landmass mod, it also adds in a new and rather unique race that you can play as. And this race has a somewhat different playstyle than most that you'll find around Tamriel, but we'll get to that more later on. Anyway, according to the author's mod description, this Landmass mod is supposed to offer quests to both regular players and players who play as the Adrians, the new race that's been added in here. But during my playtesting, I only really noticed quests working for Adrian characters, so to get the most out of this mod, you're going to need to play as the new race here. Just, thought I'd give you guys a warning about that before we move on to the rest of the showcase here. And anyway, once you do start the game as an Adrian, you'll pretty much immediately get a quest to go to one of the several new islands added by this mod, an ancient Daedric shrine not too far away from the Azura's coast region, and it should be probably mentioned that this mod will absolutely conflict with Tamriel built, and also probably a few other Landmass mods out there, but anyway, this Daedric shrine here isn't your typical Daedric ruin. You won't find a ton of hostiles here ready to kill you. Instead, you'll find a friendly face to help you on your journey. And this kind of ties in with the overall lore of the Adrians here. You see, the Adrians, according to the mod's lore, were a clan of Chimmer that was spared Azura's curse due to being faithful followers, and as such were granted a place in the Lord Mother's, aka Azura's domain of Oblivion. If you start the game as an Adrian, you're technically playing as a young Adrian who's been cast out of Oblivion to accomplish a particular task, and a quest which will be gradually revealed to you over time. And long story short, your visit to the shrine involves going into a dreamlike state, so you can receive Azura's prophecy to guide you on your quest. And this is one of the few quests in Landmass mods that I know of that employs, dream states. And through this stream, you can see the potential future of your people being slotted should you fail your quest, and this is actually a moderately, script-heavy mod. There's a fair bit going on in the background here. And anyway, to again just put a long story short, your quest involves gathering the pieces of the Staff of Oblivion, an artifact that was especially created for the Adrians, but which has been stolen by Babb for whatever nefarious purpose and broken into 3 pieces scattered across Ardenfell. And it's up to you to discover each piece and bring them back together to stop whatever, threat might doom the Adrian people. So, your typical modded main quest right there. And of course, this is a Landmass mod, so we should, show off some of the new locations included in this mod, instead of just rambling on and on about the main quest non-stop. And here you can see the home of the Adrians, a fortress located in the realms of Oblivion, where Adrianic scholars and mages study and rule over the Adrian people. And it should be mentioned that all Adrians have a pretty strong affinity for magic, so they make pretty good mage-style characters, just in case you're wondering. And anyway, you won't be able to travel here right away. You'll need to complete the first few steps of the main quest before you'll be allowed into the Adrian Citadel, which has no physical location in the exterior world space, being as it is in the realm of Oblivion and all that. And in any event, we're not going to spend a huge amount of time here, just enough to show off a couple of the interiors here before we move on to somewhere else. And you'll notice that this mod uses a particular mod as resource for the interior tile set, so it gives the Citadel a bit of a unique look. And moving on to an actual landmass, this mod also adds a fairly sizable Halalu trading city on its own island, not too far away from Cedardine. And when I say Trader City, I do mean it. Nearly every building here is a shop with a wide variety of wares for sale, though it's operated by a new, and as far as I know, impossible to join Traders Guild, which requires you to carry one of their trading certificates in order to purchase any goods in the city. And this trading certificate will actually set you back over 10,000 gold, the price of convenience apparently, for a one-stop shopping complex. And the city here has about a dozen or so different shops that span and include everything from weapons, armors, clothing, books, food, drinks, and of course much more. Though, as far as I know, there's no new quests included in this particular location, but it still, might play a part in the main quest. And truth be told, I haven't quite gotten through the entire main quest yet, so, I don't know for sure. And anyway, we're going to take a look at just a couple of the shops here, since I want to try and keep this showcase at least moderately short. And we're going to start out in the bookshop, which has a far greater selection of books than your typical bookstore, though again the price of entry is 10,000 gold, so that balances things out a bit. And here's the armor shop, which carries a considerably larger range of armors than your typical armor shop, with dozens of different armor sets for sale. And this might be considered a bit of a cheat, but again, you do have to pay just to get in, so, there's that. And next we're going to be moving on to another, albeit much smaller location. I saw a set of Telvanni shops in the Azur's Coast region, which really isn't too much to look at on the exterior here. And inside you'll find a wand shop, which specializes in magical wands that you can purchase to cast spells, and there's a bunch of different ones in here, and they all have, different kinds of magic applied to them, like fire spells, ice spells, and so on and so forth. And finally, the last location that we'll be visiting in this mod is a large new Imperial fortress and castle on its own little island to the southeast of Vvardenfell, called simply King's Abbey. And again, I don't know of any quests that you can actually get here, but I believe it's another location that's important to the overall Adrian main quest, so, that's just something to keep in mind. And, there's a lot of stuff that we're naturally going to be skipping over in this showcase in order to limit spoilers. But needless to say, the Adronacon is a pretty big mod, with a lot of new locations to visit, quests to do, and although we didn't really, go into it very much here, also new dungeons to fight through. It is a bit of an older mod though. It originally came out in 2003, I believe, so it does have a few slight issues here and there. And of course, a lot of conflicts, since it was one of the first Landmass mods to be released for Morrowind, and a lot of the Landmass mods that we have today just didn't exist back then. And that said, if you're looking for a rather unique and highly underrated Landmass mod to check out, you might want to consider giving the Adronacon a try. For our NPC Mod of the Week this week, we have Arbitus Batmolog companion character by the Drunken Mud Crab. Now with this mod you'll meet a crazy and very homicidal Khajiit out in the wastelands of the Malagomur region, and as soon as you approach him he'll challenge you to answer a question, and if you answer incorrectly, well I guess you'll figure out why there's so many charred and burned skeletons out here already, since he'll immediately begin throwing fireballs at you. He's a bit of a pyromaniac as it turns out, and of course if you manage to give him a satisfactory answer, the dialogue here will continue, and while you can choose from a number of responses, this Khajiit is rather antisocial, and just prone to setting things on fire, so just choose your next question wisely, and if all goes well, he'll tell you who he is and what his mission on Nirn is, and fair warning, it does involve setting things on fire, but regardless of that minor detail, you can convince him to join you as your traveling companion across Morrowind, so you can, set things on fire together if you so desire. Now, since he's basically a fire mage, he'll approach pretty much every situation the same way, summon a fire Atronach, and then start throwing fireballs, whether it's against a cliff racer, a rat, or a pair of Nixhound, or, even a pair of city guards. Everything burns in the end. And just taking a look at some of his companion features here, he comes with a follow and wait command, and that's really about it, honestly. He won't carry anything for you because he has no interest in anything he can't set on fire, and he couldn't care less about any of your, other would-be altars, so following and waiting somewhere is all he's really willing to do. There's also some more dialogue that goes into his background a bit, but the story here isn't really the main feature. The fire-loving companion is the, real draw here, and he is an extremely handy companion to have with you, especially in, combat situations, where his AoE fire spells can kill a large number of opponents quickly, and he knows battles before they've even really had a chance to begin, and this is certainly a rather unique companion mod to check out. This week's new Meshes and Textures mod of the week is Ghost Sense Writing on the Wall by Wildbane, and this is a texture replacer for the Ghost Sense, that transparent barrier that rings around Red Mountain and protects the rest of Vvardenfell from the terrible blight creatures within. And for those of you who remember the vanilla version of these textures, it was essentially a rather lackluster transparent blue force field that lacked that certain, unique Morrowind quality about it. But that's no longer the case now with this mod. This replacer adds a rather cool looking and certainly rather alien feeling ghostly effect to the Ghost Sense, with strange Daedric writing that constantly flows past, like some sort of incantations, keeping this force field intact, and preventing the barrier from falling. And for the most part, the background here is still that sort of bluish color. Then there's also a hint of green mixed in, and the letters themselves are a bit more, red with some bluish outlines. And to really get an appreciation for all that this replacer does, though, you have to check it out at different times of day, such as during the evening and nighttime hours especially, when the effect of all that reddish Daedric lettering is, much more apparent. It seemingly has a bit of a glow to it that makes it show up better against the blue and green background. And you'll also notice that I'm using Star Wars Gals 9875's concept art Ghost Fence Replacer alongside this mod, and indeed the author recommends this combination for the best alien feeling. They really do make for a great combination and ensure a rather epic vibe when you first approach the Ghost Fence, or Ghost Gate for that matter. And real quick, I did want to show off the fence at night time because, I mean, just look at it! The effects here during the nighttime hours are just beautiful. This really is a fantastic replacer, and this is probably my current favourite replacer for the Ghost Fence force field out there. Though there's not exactly a whole lot of competition in that regard. Replacers for the force field have always been, few and far between, and that makes this an even more welcome addition. Next up, we have our Modest Resource Mod of the Week, and this week we have English Village Church by Rubberman. And this is a pretty simple and straightforward resource that just adds a single church-like building to be used in your own mods. And like the name would imply, this is, an English, village-style church, so it probably makes the most sense to be used in Imperial and Breton villages and townships in particular. Though having said that, it does come with statues of Azura, which might be a bit of an odd choice, outside of Morrowind. I don't know of any Imperials or Bretons that worship Azura myself, though there could be some somewhere, who knows. And in any event, it should be noted that this building doesn't come with an interior, but you can probably just, use the Imperial tile set for one. And this is just another resource that you can use in your own mods to make them, feel a little more unique. For our underrated mod of the week this week, we have Yutsuva's Unique Items and Creatures by Yutsuva, and I do apologise if I mispronounced the name there. And now this is a bit of a different mod from, most of the ones that we've showcased in the past, and it kind of adds a variety of new and unique items and creatures scattered across Morrowind, and each one is meant to be a sort of unique encounter, like a new unique astronaut guarding a powerful artifact in an ancestral tomb, or an odd-looking helmet that you might find in someone's shack, or possibly a simple decorative item like a ship in a bottle that's just sitting on someone's desk in the East Empire Company offices. This mod adds over a dozen new and unique items for you to discover, some for decoration, others are weapons, amulets, or helmets like we saw before, or very unique and hidden somewhere in the world, either on an NPC or a creature, or hiding in some dark corner of a Dwemer ruin or ancestral tomb, or just somewhere else. And the goal of this mod is to simply add a few more things for you to find and encounter, and there's certainly some rather cool looking items in this package, such as a sort of lava fire staff, or a Daedric amulet, or a curved kind of evil looking blade, or even your own very, own steam machine. And this is just a fun little mod to check out, to add a few more unique artifacts to your game, and you should consider giving it a try if you're in the market for, some more random discoveries. This week's Blast from the Past mod of the week is the Knights of Tamriel by Jeremy McGuinn. And now this isn't actually one mod, but rather 6 mods combined into the Knights of Tamriel series, each one adding a shrine dedicated to one of the divines somewhere on Vvardenfell. And you can see one of these shrines here, and each of these locations guards a new set of unique armor, designed for the Knights and Paladins of Tamriel. We'll get to that more in a minute, but first we're going to check out the interior of one of these shrines here. I believe this one is dedicated to Akatosh, and it's a really cool and epic looking interior, even if it isn't, necessarily the most lore-friendly. I mean, I don't know why there's so many Dunmeri statues in an Imperial shrine dedicated to Akatosh. It seems like a bit of an odd choice, but again, this is an older mod. The Knights of Tamriel series came out between 2003 and 2004, so there were, some slightly different standards back then, and this is a pretty good example of the, style of mods at the time. And anyway, there is something of a quest involved with each shrine. Turns out some unsavory elements have taken to besieging each shrine and stealing the armor sets contained there, and you'll have to fight through usually at least a few opponents before you can unlock each one. Now with the Akatosh shrine here, you kind of need to go through a series of dungeons that are basically warps through time, or, perhaps a distorted version of events where everyone, is trying to kill you for some reason. And some of these dungeons are, pretty creative to be sure, not your standard fair set of caverns or ancient ruins, and they can be a bit on the large side. Either way, in order to get each shrine set of armor, you'll sometimes, so not always, have to fight a boss battle, which may involve damaging the armor a bit before you can, actually get a chance to wear it yourself. And before we show off some of these new armor sets, we're going to take just a quick look at a couple of the other shrines here. Though remember, there's about 6 in total, including ones dedicated to Arkay, Kenrith, and Mera, providing a bit of variety to the different locations that you'll get to visit. and some of these will have some quests associated with them, while some of the other shrines will be purely dungeon-based, where you'll have to fight through a handful of opponents to get each set of armor. And all in all, this is far more than a simple items mod, but taking a look at some of the armor sets here, there's 6 new armor sets in total, and this one is the armor set for Akatosh. Doubtless, some of this armor will look familiar, because in addition to being a dungeon and items mod, the Knights of Tamriel, a modest resource pack, and dozens of mods over the years have used these armor sets, including perhaps most notably the Silgrad Tower Landmass Mod, as well as countless others. And here's another armor set, and each of these is a pretty cool looking armor set if I do say so myself, coming in a variety of colours and each perfectly suited for that knight in shining armor that rides across the land defeating evil and whatnot. There's certainly quite a lot to this mod, and again, as always, we're skipping over most of it here to avoid spoilers, but you should definitely, consider giving it a try yourself. Just keep in mind that it does have a few minor issues due to just, how old this mod is. And finally, moving on to our bonus mod of the week this week, we have Imperials Go Home by Rats, and this is another one of the mods released for this year's Morrowind May Marathon Month modding competition. And basically what it does is it adds graffiti to a lot of the Imperial forts and structures across Vvardenfell, left by angry Dunmere citizens who would kindly like the Empire to just, leave them alone already. And this does kind of fit in with the xenophobic nature of the native inhabitants of Morrowind, and you can help out the Imperials if you so desire by cleaning each vandalized wall you find. And in a way, this is both a collector's mod and a quest mod, since many of these vandalized walls are hidden, and to find all of them, you'll need to keep an eye out when you visit Imperial towns and settlements, and you'll eventually be rewarded for your efforts, as well as potentially have assassins sent out to you from angry Dunmer who, want those vandalized walls to stay up. And anyway, as you might expect, some Imperial locations, like notably Ebonheart, have a ton of vandalized structures, now thanks to all the graffiti everywhere, which makes for a fun time to try and track them all down. In total, there's over 50 different walls covered in graffiti across Morrowind, and it'll take a long time to track them all down. And as you clean more and more graffiti, you'll gradually be rewarded with more and more rewards, including things like gold and reputation boosts for Imperial factions. And keep in mind that you may come across some graffiti even in Dunmere towns like Balmora, where Imperial factions like the Mages Guild and Fighters Guild have buildings. And in any event, this is a pretty neat mod that adds yet another thing for you to do as you travel across Morrowind. And that wraps up this week's episode of Morrowind Online Showcases. As always, download links, conflict information, and clean warnings can be found in the video description below. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.